Good morning. Welcome to our Live Talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our Live Talk program, covering current events on this Thursday, Rise and Shine. And today I'm looking at the topic current events represents our sowing. So current events represents our sowing. So whether it be in the general world, those around, or in our personal life, whatever we sow, that shall we also reap. So a lot of what we see in the news today, it's simply you can go back and look at what was sown, and you see the results. So let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for your blessings in our lives and the way that you continue to guide us along, that we might follow your word and live by every precepts that we can see and understand, that we might live and have the outcomes that would be for our blessing and those around us. May you be with us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking at this topic here again, which is current events represents our sowing. So whatsoever we sow, that shall we also reap. And so when we reap, then we must simply look at what has been sown to come to a proper understanding as to what is the what was put in, because as we put in, we get a result. So what did we put in, and what are we getting as a result of what we put in? So notice here, my theme again is coming from Psalm 63, verse 8. My soul followed hard after thee, thy right hand uphold me. So our soul follow hard after the Lord, and when we follow hard after the Lord, it's simply an understanding that we stay close to God, we cling to God, we follow behind Him in His steps as He lead. We keep close behind God, because we want to be able to get that blessing. And whether it be my soul, my whole being, everything clings to God. And we cleave to God, similar to the concept of we glue ourselves to God, adhere to God, join to God, and stick to God. So when we stick to God principles, we get blessings. So one of the reasons that I really believe we get blessings, especially when we read the Bible, is that number one, we're reading from the life and the results of people who lived not in our time, so to speak, but with our experiences, and they got bad results and good results, and so we can study the good and the bad, so that we can come to a conclusion of how to get good results. And so when you study the Bible, as I say, a lot of the Bible is dealing with sin and the bad results of sin. But a lot of the principles in the Bible, when you see people like Moses and Job and stuff like that, and people who can be our contemporaries, or people who lived not so long in the past, when we study that they follow certain principles, they get certain results. Like yesterday, I was talking, when you see a person follow a very heavy meat-eating diet, and they get a certain result. You see a person follow a plant-based diet, and they get a certain results. Then you can say simply, the results have no error in them. And so when we look at current events now, we're seeing that the current events match up to what we read in the Bible and what we read in history. That when a country could do something, or a person could do something 10 years in the past, 20 years in the past, and then they get a result way out in the past, 10, 20 years later. And you say, well, what happened? Well, it's just the chicken come home to roost, right? The results come in. I'm sure you've seen it over and over again in families, in your probably your family, definitely in your family, everybody family you see this in, where you see a child that was not disciplined, was not properly educated, whatever it is that was supposed to be done for the child by the parent, because there was supposed to be somebody that's a parent in the room, and then you see the child come out, and the child literally, even physically, abuse the parents. And you say, where did that come from? And then when you go back, you say, oh yeah, I remember, this is how they brought the child up. And then they pay a heavy price for that bad behavior. So in this life is sowing and reaping. And so when we look at something that's happening today, other than like an accident or something like that, which sometimes you can't really understand where that come from, or accidents happen, as I say. But for the most part in life, most of what you can look at and what we will see as, say, what I would talk about as current events, is simply a matter of you saw the works that was done, how people behave a certain way, what they invested in, and you saw the end result. So as I say, other than you going on the road and there's an accident, a tree fall on you and stuff like that, which only God can explain what happened there. our life can be. But even you notice even certain accidents, you can really understand how it come about, and then next there's a lawsuit. Recently there's a case that covered that they had basically infused a lemonade at, I think, Chipotle, no, Panera bread. I think it's Panera bread. They infuse it with high dose of coffee, very high dose of coffee. And now there's a second lawsuit they announced because of that, because some other child got damaged. And you can look at those things and you can say it's an accident, or you can say, what are they thinking? That thing could spike your heart rate and stuff like that. And but these are things that people choose to do, and somebody could have a bad experience and thinking that's an accident. And even many accidents we have come to realize there's a lawsuit because there's somebody that knew something and did not do right. And so a lot of what we would classify as current events have to be investigated. This is why when major media and stuff like that tell you that there's no conspiracy theory, or every conspiracy theory is falsehood, and then later on, you see PBS or the government put out a documentation clarifying that, oh no, it was no, the person who was doing a conspiracy theory is not a conspiracy theory. It was actually a theory that is as now we're coming out and admitting that, yeah, oh, we did some wickedness and this is the result. And these are the people got maimed and so forth. But we're the government, so we get immunity. And so you see these things, and when you see this, you say, well, these are current events. There is something that currently happening, but how did we get here? And this is why they always have truth and reconciliation committees, because there's somebody that need to reconcile and do some atonement because something went down. And so when we follow the Bible now, that long thought, when we follow the Bible, what we're doing is that we're trying to get forewarned how results come about. And we study that, and what we prove with the Bible is that the testimony and the accuracy of sowing and reaping is amazing. And so we don't need to per se see somebody that, as I say, train a child to be a brat, and then we don't need to see the results unless the Lord mercy or the child find the Lord by themselves. The mom, the dad will destroy that child, and the child will have a miserable life. And everybody be like, why? Because you failed to do your job. And that's the story of Eli and how he trained his young men, and they end up paying a heavy price. And we see kids like this all the time. They pay a heavy price. So yeah, self-discipline is important, even if your parents don't discipline you, if you want good results. So our current events are normally what are sowing. So this I'm talking now for the righteous also, because you see a person have a peaceful life, and then you start to realize, oh, the peaceful life comes because they sowed peace in their life. You see a person with a very tumultuous life, and everything is always going wrong, and they always have all kind of excuse and problems. And you say, what are they doing? And you realize, oh, they sowed that. So righteousness exalts a nation, and sin is a rebuke, a curse to a people. And when you see certain wickedness going on in society, then you see that what are they doing in the society, and then you see the results. So I'm gonna pepper some of that into my talk here. So good or bad, we always get the results of our doing. So Psalms again, chapter 63, verse 1 through 11. This is a psalm of David when he was in the wilderness in Judah. O God, thou art my God, early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth for thee, my flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. So it's always best, it's good to come to the Lord when you're older. It's always good to come to the Lord, in other words. But if you come to the Lord when you're younger, it's better because you can set yourself on a path of success in various different areas. But oftentimes, if you're rusted and busted, you still want to come to the Lord and be saved. But if you're young, you want to be able to avoid, the pig's food diet and lifestyle, wallowing with the pigs and lifestyle, because then you beat up yourself, and then you have a lot of drama in your life. You have a lot of problems in your life. If you can avoid those things, you want to be able to avoid that. So it does mean that if you're a prodigal son and you're eating the pig's food or fighting the pigs for food, and you come back to the Lord, it's a great thing, but we always believe that it's best not to go with the pigs and wallow with the hoes and whores and stuff like that. So notice here, so he thirsts the Lord because his soul thirsts for the Lord, and he seek the Lord early. And this was David's story. To see the power and thy glory, so as I have seen thee in thy sanctuary. Because thy loving kindness is better than life, and my lips shall praise thee. Thus will I bless thee while I live. I will lift up my hands in thy name. My soul shall be satisfied with marrow and fatness, and my mouth shall praise thee with joy, with joyful lips. When I remember thee upon my bed and meditate on thee in the night watches, because thou hast been my help, therefore in the shadow of thy wings will I rejoice. So again, when we look at this here with Christ, with David here, you can see this is the sowing. In the night watch, and when he's on his bed, he's thinking on the Lord, he's meditating, the words are going through his mind. He's thinking on his guidance, what he plans for his future. And the result of that is who we got. Later on in life, he made some mistakes. Not made mistakes, made bad choices. But the experience that he had up until that point was an experience based upon this type of sowing, the constant meditation by, as I say, garbage in, garbage out. But so is good things in, good things out. When you take in good things, the word of God, positive thoughts, forgiving your enemies, learning to live peaceable with all men where lies possible, because sometimes you have to go to war with people. Then what it is that type of methodology, that type of life skills that are developed, reap reward, bring success. You see the opposite when people feed the propensities, and they feed on vices, and they meditate on all kind of evil, and they always hate and always calling for hate for people. You see the end results. You see the results are unerring. So when we study and we look at what we call current events and news, what we're just seeing what the society and what the individuals are sowing. But when we see positive in the society, we see that that person, that's what they're sowing. And yet I've been in churches and they try to talk down this type of concept that is just reaping and sowing. A person is getting good results is because they sow good results. And the person is getting bad results is because they sow bad results. The individual is accountable. It is the Lord give the word, and the Lord bless us with the Holy Spirit and send angels and all that. But we have to do something, and our part will be the deciding factor. As I think it was C.D. Brooks said this thing. The preacher, he says, the Lord vote for us and Satan vote against us, and we're the deciding vote. So when it's all come and said and done, no matter what they teach in the mainline churches, at the end of the day, we're the tie break, we're the decider. Somebody could say, well, Jesus died for you, yeah, and Satan want to kill you, and you need to make a choice. And yet, mainline Christianity want to take away that choice and say it's all the Lord. And so if it's all the Lord, then everybody would be saved. What do you say to that? If it's all the Lord and it's only God, as they say in the mainline evangelical churches and in the mainline Adventist church, well then what's the point? Then don't go to church then. Don't pray. Don't study your Bible. Don't try to discipline your mouth, whether it be talking or eating. Don't do nothing. Don't avoid watching certain movies and then see the results. But that's another sermon for another day. So notice here, my soul shall be satisfied with marrow and fatness, and my mouth shall praise thee with joyful lips. When I remember thee upon my bed and meditate on thee in the night watches, because thou hast been my help, therefore in the shadow of thy wings will I rejoice. So notice, if you're in the shadow of God's wings, that means you're close behind God. If that makes sense. You're following hard after God. My soul followed hard after thee. Thy right hand upholdeth me. So if as I say, if you're walking with somebody and you're in the shadow, that means you're very close to them. And if you're with God and His right hand is upholding you. That means he's touching you. And so that's what it is. So he acknowledged that. And as I say, there's blessings that comes our way, and we often not acknowledging that it's God's deliverance and God's blessing. But those that seek my soul to destroy it shall go into the lower parts of the earth. And as we said there, you've seen many people who have gone. They shall fall by the sword, and they shall be the portion of for foxes. But the king shall rejoice in God. Every one that sweareth by him shall glory. But the mouth of them that speak lies shall be stopped. And that is a fact. They just drop off. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 and 6, as we read before, read again. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So we live our lives, and we live our lives, even though we live our life by faith, so to speak, we look for always substance, and we look for always evidence. That's why when we preach, or I preach substance and evidence. Why? Because that's the way we live our life. It is, the Lord is not just asking us to believe without faith, without evidence and without substance. There has to be some results, right? There has to be some results. As I say, if you're moving a right path, you're supposed to get right results. If you're moving a wrong path, you're supposed to get wrong results. That's the evidence and the substance in the Bible. There's nobody in the Bible that has ever broken that principle, so we live by that principle. So my encouragement to you here is, if you're moving in a direction and you're feeling pain, you know that the direction is wrong. Pain is always telling you that something is wrong. No matter if it's mental pain, social pain, anxieties, depression, literal physical pain in your body, that's telling you that you're moving the wrong direction. And you need to move in a different direction. You need to go seek and find, and ask. You start to look around. There has to be an option out there. So again, when you open up your browser, I don't know if anybody use ink anymore. You open up your browser and you see certain current events going on. Then you say, how did we get here? And then you start to going backwards to when you were younger. And you say, well, my peers, what were they doing? What were they learning? And then you go back, you're like, oh, I see. Because there's always substance and evidence. There's always results. So if you look at somebody and they were there and they did a certain lifestyle, it's just simply the result of that lifestyle you're seeing right now. In your life, in my life, and in everybody's life, everybody sow and they reap. So I don't want to keep going back to this, but just say here. So there's salvation, but salvation is not just what most people want to preach, the thief on the cross. There is the result of the long walk with God. The thief on the cross is not the only person that's saved in the whole Bible. But there is that person that can be saved right at the last moment. But this is not the way you're supposed to live your life. The results that you have are a result of accumulation of the choices that you make. You can see somebody goofing off in school and you catch them 10 years later, unless they pull up and try to change that trajectory. The results that they have is the results that they have. You see somebody into gambling, and the results that they have is just the results that they have. That's just what it is. Now, something could change, yes, but until that change comes, the reaping will be a representation of what was sown. So notice here, but without faith it is impossible to please God, him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is. So that's why when you see the evolutionists and their children, you see the results that they reap, because they don't believe that there's no God. They believe that they evolved from a primordial soup in Africa and then they went to Europe. And you see the results of their reaping or their sowing, because they sow their kids on Discover Channel and those channels this constant diatribe and foolishness about how the process of why they got here. So they can't please God because they don't even believe that he is. So they can't even fulfill that first process. But somebody would say, well, but they don't believe in God. Sure. So I take that, I give that to them. They don't believe in God, so obviously they don't believe that he is. Right? So you can diligently seek somebody and follow hard after him or a being that you don't believe exists. But then we say, well, what is their philosophy? Their philosophy is that they're superior and they're the end product of evolution. So then we test that. We see what's the result of that. This is basically evidence, substance and evidence. So, so let's look at the evidence. What's the evidence? The results, right? That's it. Let's look at the results. And you look at the results. What's the results? The results is this concept of survival of the fittest. Well, what is the result of that? That the stronger prey on the weaker. Can I show you this in the history of people who believe that they evolve? Yes. But what is that? That's called a bully. See, that's my research, and that's how I've looked at it. So, a person that is the stronger, that preys upon the weaker, you would normally say in society, is a bully. Well, the modern way to say it is you say they're Ken and Karens. They bully the weaker. Can you see that in the history of the countries that believe in this? Yes. This is clear evidence. It's clear substance. For me, at least. I look at it and say, what do they believe in? They say they believe in this idea that the superior beat up the weaker because they do it to survive. Can you see that in the foreign policy of the nation? Yes, if you look at American foreign policy, it is definitely an evolutionary foreign policy. It's not a creationist foreign policy. It is a policy that will attack a nation that is an island. That's the gang mentality. That's the current events. You look at Israel policy. It's not a biblical policy. It's a policy that the strong beat up the weaker. And then if the weaker try to fight back, then the strong decimate the weaker. And it's backed by Britain, Germany, America, France. Well, what do they believe in? They don't believe in Christianity. For the most part, they believe that they evolved. At least that's what they put on the TV. And that's what they're trying to brainwash us in college about. So that's the evidence. Now you might see it a different way, but look at the results. The reaping and sowing are matched. This is what they sow to their young men, and this is what they reap. So if you're weaker, you're at a disadvantage in a society that is telling you all day long that the only somebody that survives is this big, tough brute that are beat up kids. Somebody said, Lloyd, how far does it go? Let's tell you how far does it go. This is why there's such a major problem with pedophilia, because what's a pedophile? Somebody just accused this guy called Puff Daddy of gang raping a teenager. Well, that's the evidence, and that's a terrible accusation, because that's the strong going after the weak and the young, praying. So when you see this kind of praying mentality, you say, is that part of the culture? Well, somebody will say, well, that's the current events, but that's not part of the culture. It might not be. But why do you have such a big problem? And you have people always. Don't you see the news, and you always see in a society, they're always worried about like Pizzagate. They're constantly worried about that there's this major problem with pedophilia. Well, pedophilia to me is people who believe that they can go after, they're not going after a challenge, they're going after weakness. To me, that's the how you call it? This is the depravity of sin. See, righteousness make you the strong try to save the weak. Sin make you try to go after the weak. So here's the thing. I tend to believe that it's a false philosophy to justify evil behavior. In other words, if I'm strong and I want to justify myself going after like an island, like Grenada, and attack it, I need a philosophy that makes me don't look like a monster. But really what it is, I'm a monster. Because I'm trying to take out the weak. But I want to justify it, so I come up with this mumbo jumbo foolishness. And then I teach it to my kids, and so that they could think, oh, so daddy's not a monster, daddy's just an evolutionist. So I believe it's just a bunch of excuses when it's all said and done. If I'm talking to you publicly, privately, I'm just going to think, I think I know what this is. This is just excuses for bad behavior. Because what happened if the case comes out and that rapper is like R. Kelly, which is another rapper or singer or whatever you call him, and they're really just monsters going after weak. They could say, "Oh no, I'm not a monster. I'm just an evolutionist." You see my drift there. So when people get up and come up with these false theories, it's just to justify psychological justification for evil behavior because they can't explain it all the way. But it's just evil behavior that human being in their depravity does, and then try to justify it with philosophy. It's like if you go down south where most of the evangelical churches exist, and they have something to preach. So they say, well, prosperity gospel, because we have to explain why all the criminality that we did and why we have money. So they have to come up with that as God made us have the money. It's just basically just evil people making up stuff and then try to even use the Bible to make it up. So we believe that there's a God. So we start there. And that is a reward of them that diligently seek him. So when we follow hard after God, we're just diligently seeking the Lord. And we go where the evidence lead, even if the evidence is uncomfortable. And you can see I just mentioned some very uncomfortable things there. But that's where the evidence have led me. I look at the evidence, I look at the substance. I believe that there's a God, and God tell me certain things, and God tell me that human beings are deprived because of sin. And when you go down the rabbit hole of getting every day and singing about sex, and rapping about sex, and watching sex tapes, and now it's probably stream, and just going on there. After a while, you just lose yourself, and you just become even a rapist. That's just what the Bible tells me. And the story of Saul, there are various different stories in the Bible. You keep at night watching people showering or bathing naked and stuff like that. After a while, you probably want to go kill their husband and take them. That's the reality of life that we live. If you watch so much fighting, you might end up being somebody that's, no matter if somebody says something to you and it's probably, you even misunderstand, you start swinging. You start just swinging and fisting and kicking them. Why? Because you've studied that. See, wherever we sow, that shall we also reap. So the evidence of the sowing is always in what was the sowing, I should say, is always in the reaping. When we see certain results, when we see, you force feed from childhood to keep telling somebody that they're from a soup or from a swamp, what do you expect? You tell somebody, oh, every day, oh, you're from a swamp and it's the survival of the fittest, it's the fittest destroy everybody. Then you're going to get certain results. But the results are the evidence and substance. You might not see at first the sowing. You just see, you're never going to see the sowing, so to speak, unless you were there, like with a child. But if you see the results, you're going to say whatever. So one of our big current events, as you know, is this constant story about incel, involuntary celibate. Where did they come from? How did this come about? But when I was younger, I saw young men, I dealt closely with young men that were secular and in the church that end up becoming incel. And I'm amazed by this because I knew them when they were in their teens, and then now I see them now and they have now turned incel. And I say, I watched the development. And I see how it came about. Now, at that time, I thought it was trouble, but I didn't see the level of trouble. And I didn't know anything about no incel. So, say when I was in my 20s and they were in the teens, and I'm watching them, and I'm thinking, I see trouble here. But I couldn't tell you at that age that they were going to turn out this way. But I saw the video game playing, the isolation, the lack of sociability, lack of friends. I saw all of that. And I think that's not healthy. When you're in your teenage years, you're supposed to be hanging out, just talking all the time, just interacting with male, female, whatever. But you see some young men and they're constantly on the computer playing Grand Theft Auto, playing all kind of killer games, which is antisocial behavior. Not the behavior of playing the video games, but the behavior of playing violent stuff, constantly feeding on violence. And I saw this, but I couldn't have told you all those years later that those young men would become adult incels. It makes sense that if you're entertained by violence, that you would end up like that. I saw Pulp Fiction when I was younger, the movie by Quentin Tarantino, where just constant shooting. And then I'd seen the John Wayne movies where just constant, just killing the Indians. But I just didn't, I would never have imagined that just feeding on that level of constant movie violence. And then I listened to when I got a little bit older, I listened to like Lindsey Graham and Senator McCain, and just constant talk about murder and fighting and war. You just, then I would never have, I wish I had known then. My preaching would have been revolutionary. I don't know if I would still be alive. But my preaching, because I would have said, I would have called it, I would say, I know what's going to happen. Because you take the movies, it's just constant Rambo, Rocky, what is it, Robocop, that's in the 80s. And then you take the Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino movies, and you take the John Wayne in the 70s, and you take the senators constantly talking about war. You take the probably the warmonger of them all, George Bush. And then you just take all of that into, and then the video games with this constant fighting and killing, and then MMA, and then what it is. You just keep going. Football, everything is just violent. The heroes of the country are not the teachers and the professors, but the heroes of the country are the warriors. And you take that into one big swoop, and then you say, what is this thing where we can't, this country always have mass murders? Is there something going on? And you like, there's something going on. There is like a constant feeding of violence. And then now when you get every year or almost, I think COVID kind of pull it back. But after they get let out from COVID, it's just the shooting just continues, unabated, mass murders after mass murders, and people blowing up their houses. And you say, where is this happening? Now, I should have called it because, see, as a young man, I grew up in Jamaica. And in Jamaica, the music was the primary driver, and the John Wayne movies, because they would play the cowboy movies. And there, the music was very, some of the music was very sexual or violent, it's bad man. And so it's always about the bad man. And the bad man is a hero. If the bad man's stealing from the Chinaman store, he's a hero because he robbed the store. And so you're entertained by criminality, entertained by bad man. And so what happened? And then now you throw on that some John Wayne movie, and John Wayne just don't stop shooting the Indians because it's justified. And you realize that the first 100 years of American history was just a constant war with the Indians. And then you say, so it's the reaping. You see the evidence of that. You see that, okay, there's a corn, but then the sowing, you'd be like, okay, what sowed? Well, you don't have to be there. So this is the thing with the Bible. The Bible tells you, but somebody said, well, I can't believe it if I didn't see it. Well, you can see the results here, so you can't believe it. You just need to see the evidence and the substance. So Mark chapter 4, verse 26 through 29. And he said, so the kingdom of heaven is as a man that should cast seed into the ground. So this is the kingdom of heaven for the good part. And so we understand the good process. And then when we understand the good process, we understand also the reverse. So that's why for us, we follow hard after God, because we know what we were trying to escape. At least that in my mind, I'd known when I was young that I'm trying to escape a certain lifestyle. And so if you're trying to escape a certain lifestyle, it's you have to go it at a way to escape it. And when you study the Bible, you find out who escape, and then you can get away. So it says, and the man who sowed the seed in the ground, cast the seed in the ground, and should sleep and rise night and day, and the seed should spring and grow up. You know it not how. So that's what it is. Sometimes you really don't know how these things going to work. I don't know how. I'm just looking at evidence and substance. But I can see that the seed was sown. You get it? The seed was sown. See, you read the word of God, you study, you pray, you meditate. You do what like David did. When you're in trouble, you say, Lord, deliver. And you keep working. And a day you come, you be like, you even lose taste for things that you used to have a taste for. You don't know how. Somebody said, but you did the work. No, but you don't really know how it works. You don't know how the brain get detoxed. We know the brain detoxes. Time pass by. See, time is what's important. You have to give it time. Like if I say, if you know, if you get some good results, then give it time. The good results will pile up, build up. So notice here, for the earth bring forth sorry, for the earth bring forth fruit of herself, first the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. But when the fruit is brought forth, immediately put it in the sickle, because the harvest is come. So the sowing happens. You cast the seed in, it goes away, and he should sleep. Goes to sleep, and then pop. He doesn't know how that happened. We don't know how it happens. We don't literally, when a seed is put in the ground, we don't know. There's electrical impulse from the earth. There's stuff that's going on that we really don't understand. And then it comes through. Wow. Then it comes through, but he sleeps. And then it says, first the blade. So the blade comes up out of the earth, pops out. You've seen the stop motion photography, how they do it, and they show you pop, 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 pop. It grows up. You'd be like, oh, that's cute. Then the ear pops out. You say, wow, that's cute. And after that, the full head of corn. Wow, I like corn. And it comes out, the corns come out. Nice, sweet corn. Love corn, right? And then he goes in and he said, let's reap some corn. Ah, nice. Right? So, in positive, you get the same result. You got to sleep on it sometime. You got to sleep on it. You got to like, okay, let's. And then when you wake up, you're like, wow. Have you ever been to bed trying to figure out something the day before? You went to bed and you wake up and it just all come together. And you be like, it's amazing. Ain't that something? Have you ever experienced that? I've experienced multiple times. Trying to figure out something, can't figure it out. No matter what I do, I can't figure it out. And I have all the pieces. And then I will go to bed and woke up, and in the morning, it just comes in my mind, the answer. And I'm like, where did the answer come from? It's like my brain just scramble it and put it together. And I'm like, great, I have the answer. And I didn't even I wasn't trying to tax my brain. My brain just like rested. And my brain sorted out while I'm sleeping and then come. And it's the same thing. You put it in. So as I say, you turn the news on and you see certain headlines. And you say, where did this come from? And you be like, oh, first the blade, then the ear. You saw it developing and the full of the corn. So there's things that we're seeing in society. And the question sometimes I'm asking myself, is this the blade? Is this the, how do they say, is this the blade? Is this the ear? Or is it full of corn? Because there's things we're seeing in society that if it's not the ear or the corn, we're in big trouble. The negatives. I don't know what you think about that. Just slowing down here. I'm purposely slowing down here. I'm not trying to be deep. I've seen things and I say, I hope this is the ear at least. And or the full of the corn. I hope this is not the blade. Because if this is the blade and we're seeing a development that's going to get worse, this could be troubling. And if this is the air, well, the bigger trouble is yet to come, but at least there's some, okay, we probably can get to the end of it. Hopefully, most of the time, it's the full head of corn because at least you can pull it back. Okay, you say, okay, at least that's the worst you're going to get. But you have to think about that. So it's the same thing in your life. If you're doing good in your life, like in your social setup is good, then my question now, is it the blade? Hopefully it's the blade? Or is it the air? Or is it the full head of corn? Because when good is in your life, you almost want to hope that's just the beginning process, right? So if you're doing good, if you're doing good health-wise, you hope you can do even better. And then a big harvest. You put in one seed, that seed give you a blade, a ear, and a full head of corn. That's what we want. We want the positive in these texts, but we also have to face the negative. And I've seen situation when it comes on to like health, that somebody was at a certain point, and then they didn't address it, and it got to another point, and they didn't address it, and then there's a big storm on their hand, right? So in our lives, everything, our financial life, our health life, social, spiritual, anything that we do, we want to hope that when we're getting good results, that's just the blade. It's just starting, and the blade is going this going to blow up, and it's going to get great. But it's the same thing if we're breaking records with mass murders, and we having all these millions of young men are antisocial, and then we're pumping them with more violence, more crazy, wild, outlandish music, more violent movies, video games, whatever. Are we creating people that are antisocial? Because I don't know if somebody every day can watch fight videos, more fight videos. Are they preparing themselves to be social? Because for me, I realize I have to learn more to go the extra mile, turn it a cheek, pray for my enemies, so forth and so on. I like try to reach out to people. That's my thinking, that I have to do that more, not less. So, but I don't want to feed myself on some things that all I'm seeing is people fighting. I'm just pausing here because I really think this is a trouble amongst us, and we need to be part of the solution. Like reach out to people, even though it's difficult to reach out to people that are antisocial, because the end result is that they think about it. We're leading the world with suicide, and it's mostly men. So it's not just it's a cacophony of craziness. It is the suicide, the depression, the anxiety, the paranoia, the conspiracy theories, the video games, the movies, the incel, is all these things. But if you think about, as I say, some of that feed themselves on a constant diet of violent video games, antisocial behavior, hate for the strangers, the fatherless, the widow, and anything antisocial, anything social they hate. It don't matter if it's social security, and it's just everything that says social is And how can that be good? And then leaders of this, you have a con man in the Senate, and then leaders, in the Congress, and then leaders in the country that constantly feed the people. Imagine, to me, it seems like one of the main criteria to be the leader of the people is like hate for the poor, hate for the foreigners, hate for. How can this be good? Whether or not you believe in this or not, but if you believe in this, it's not good for you. Your constant target is the poor, the foreigners, the strangers, but yet we constantly destroy their country with the most horrendous foreign policy, and then they flee their country. Because anywhere we go, it seems like people flee there. Just think about how terrible that is. You send the what is it, the Secretary of State, and everywhere you go, you just like, look, if he goes to a country, people gonna start fleeing from there and want to head to America because they're screaming, and this is it's just constant. You cannot get good results if you keep doing this type of stuff. Every war, we are behind it, and we already telecast. Israel, Ukraine's, Taiwan. It's just always and they have a list of wars that they need to fight, and then say the people are depressed and violent, and the people fighting in the street. That's another song. So Isaiah chapter 10, verse 12 through 15. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 12 through 15. So you reap what you sow. We're supposed to sow friendliness and mercy. But you have people in the churches like they anti everything. It's just very strange. Even the pastors. This is very brutal. Hosea chapter 10, verse 12 through 15 says, sow to yourself in righteousness and reap in mercy. Break up your fallow ground. For it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon you. So you have to break up our fallow ground. So somebody say, but listen, it's too easy to hate. It's harder to love. I believe so. Not in a sinful world. And not in a world that gives you reason to want to hate people. Good reason sometimes. But that's what God called us to be different. Ye have plowed wickedness. Ye have reaped iniquity. Ye have eaten the fruit of lies. Because thou didst trust in thy ways and in the multitude of thy mighty men. When I read this text, this text is talking about Israel, but I think about it modernly. I don't know why did they trust in their leaders to think that they should live in armored cities with iron dome around their head and checkpoints everywhere. So think about it. The group of people that complain about they were under the Holocaust brutality from the Germans are the ones that have basically, I don't know if they have penned the Palestinian in or themselves in with the most nasty, hateful behavior you can see being displayed by mankind right now, by a state. I'm not talking about this is state-sponsored hate, not seen on the earth. And they're saying it's because of the Palestinian. Well, wait a minute now. You really have to think. They've trusted in their mighty men that they're safe. And what they're safe with is just weaponry. But why they're in that situation? Because I know evangelicals say because it's God's people and they're God's peaceful, loving people. But why are they in that situation? When you think about that, well, you don't have to think about that. Think about that in your own time. I don't have, my time is running out. So, so I've thought about it and I say, but they are in that situation. And the evangelicals want them in that situation because they think it's something to do with God's blessing. Very, very strange. If you look at the planet right now, there's one group of people that are surrounded by bombs and weapons and military. One group. Is there another group? Because I know North Korea just have a border. And they live within peace within their border. And it's a militarized border because of South Korea. And again, something to do with America backing and stuff. But which area in the world other than North Korea, which again is North and South Korea, is a fight between America and the Koreans. And then now you have the other area actually is Israel. Why would the Jews find themselves in this situation? But this text tells me. And they believe that this is safe. And they go, I wouldn't go live in that area. This is just terrible. I don't know every country has a military or whatever, but I just armed conflict where the president say every time he's the one that can control a mass and he can just go over there and mow down the grass. And then this time the grass grew up and actually bite them. I don't know if grass can bite, but that's what happened. Why you put yourself in that situation? And, I've watched leaders that telling us that what we need to do is build a bigger wall. We probably need to build a 40-foot wall on the border. Why are you going to build a 40-foot wall on the border? That's still stupidity to me. That's ignorance. For me, it's ignorant, very idiotic. I think it's just stop doing bad foreign policy, and then you don't have to have people flooding the country. Every country that you try to destabilize, people flee. And that's a fact. Just think about it. Somebody could say, oh, it's just one big coincidence, Lloyd. I don't know why every time we destabilize Venezuela and embargo them, people flee from there. Why we do Haiti, Cuba. Why is these countries that we have on the embargo? People are I don't understand. It's like, if you keep trying to destroy people's economy, then they're going to flee. They're going to flee to go somewhere. It's just, people need to eat. I would flee. I would tell everybody to flee. You know my policy. My policy is that everybody from Haiti should leave and go to Pennsylvania. I love it over there. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place for them to live. Because your foreign policy is destroying the country. Just they should just leave because then they can't live in their country. So then just give it to America and just go to Haiti and go to Pennsylvania. I don't understand. But they trust in their mighty men because they say, oh no, it's great. We need to keep our feet on their necks. Why? I've not heard the justification. Why do they do this to Haiti? I don't understand. Why they have to embargo Cuba? Oh, because they're coming. Yes, so what? Like, let them just do what they have to do. They don't want to be Democrat. So what? Oh, we need to destroy them. It's just, and so then when you get the blowback now, and these people just walking around shooting up people, then you're like, you sow too much evil. That's just to me the narrative of the Bible, and that's our current events. Why? Oh, because I've never heard a justification. Why? Well, if Venezuela want to do what Venezuela do, let them. They're their own country. They have to live under their leadership. Oh, we got to stop them. Like, why? I don't understand. Let them do what they have to do. But I've never heard it. And if you have the justification, you can find me and contact me anywhere. Tell me. I'd like to hear this. I've watched documentaries. I've just not seen it. And if I would be able to tell you here. I've not seen the moral, spiritual justification for this. I don't see why Israel need to live like this. But somehow evangelicals, they say, oh, it's God's people, so we have to. And then they hate Muslims, so it seems like that's their justification. They hate of Muslims. They're going to have to murder them. Anyhow, in verse 14 it says, therefore shall a tumult arise among thy people, and all the fortresses shall be spoiled, as Salmon spoiled Bartharbel in the day of battle. The mother was dashed in pieces upon her children. So shall Bethel do unto you because of your great wickedness. In the morning shall the king of Israel utterly be cut off. Just regular story. Proverbs 8 verse 17. Proverbs 8 verse 17 says, I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. So we want to seek wisdom early. We don't want to be crazy in this life. You have to leave people alone. We can't be Kens and Currents globally and inside of the country. You have to leave people alone. But yeah, no, you're not going to get that from the Kens and Currents at the State Department. In Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 3 and 4. Jeremiah 4, verse 3 and 4 says, for thus says the Lord to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground and sow not among thorns, which is what we don't want to do. You know, as I say, as Christians, we can't, I just talk here. I ain't stopping nobody. If they want to go shoot up every day there with their video games and watch the movies and just feed themselves fighting, MMA, boxing, blah, blah, and they can do that. But for us as Christians, we don't want that result. We want to be peace-loving people, so we don't watch those things. Per se, I watched those things and I did the video game things and I did all this stuff. So everything I'm talking about here, these are things I did. And what happened, they create an evil mind. You know, I'm not be jealous enough nobody and what they want to do. I would never be going to anybody's country. I don't know why anybody do this and go stop them. I just deal with the people that want to deal with me and then leave people to do what they have to do. I'm just talking from my point of view. I wouldn't do those things. I wouldn't try to hold nobody hostage. I ain't trying to rape nobody. I'm not trying to steal from nobody. I'm not trying to stop in a country from. If they want to go socialism and Marxism and whatever, that's their business. I don't believe in that. But there's some people, oh no, we got to stop. Why? You see, you're sowing thorns. We need to live peaceably with all men. They need to live their life. I live my life. I ain't trying to stop no homosexual. They want to go get anal sex and so I ain't trying to stop them. God gonna deal with them, and God is dealing with them, and that's how I look at life. Notice here, circumcise yourself to the Lord and take away the foreskins of your heart, ye men of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire and burn, that none can quench it because of the evil of your doings. No, at this time here, he wasn't even talking to Israel. The 10 tribes there, or 11 or whatever tribe, they already are gone, taken captive. Oh, messed up. So, you know, when we in Adventism, as an example, you see people talking, running their mouth about God's true church and all kind of, you know, silly talk. Listen, a lot of the church are already closed and messed up. Don't even, you go into some Adventist church, or you look at some of them, you can't even tell if you're in an evangelical church or in a Catholic church sometime. They're just all messed up. And this is what happened. So just similar to Israel, Israel itself got wiped out at this point. The tribes were almost all gone, taken captive to Assyria. And so when you talk about results, this is a result. He's talking to Judah and Jerusalem. Their areas of them are wiped. And so people talk about, yeah, church gonna go through, but if you understand it, it's an ordeal and it's a wipeout that's happening. But that's the result. That's our current events. So you see the result and you say, why is this result? Because you mess with people too much and you're not taking care of your own business. So you get the results. Notice here, Christ speak again, a little bit more time here with me. Matthew chapter 13, verse 3 through 9. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them. So again, you sow yourself righteousness and you reap good result. You put in all the evil in your life and the results are just going to come. As I say, you cannot have from the movies to the whatever. Just keep emphasizing this here. You cannot feed yourself this level of violence and not end up bad. You can't be a social person and every day you're watching. Oh, I forget about WWF, WWE. You know the wrestling thing, the fake wrestling. You can't be. It's just a constant feeding on violence, and you end up will beat your wife. That's just a fact. You cannot feed yourself on that level of violence. You end up with start fighting your coworkers and your boss. You may physically start punching them. It's just we're just what we eat. And if you eat that type of stuff, you will. And that's why I think it's just people keep messing with people from it's from the local level all the way to the national level. And you just look at it. But if you want good results, don't feed yourself that stuff. Don't be watching MMA and wrestling and don't be thinking because next you know you're gonna grab your wife and do a suplex on her. I think I know what a suplex is. You're gonna grab her and do a suplex because that's what you're watching. And you don't want to watch that stuff because after a while that stuff gets in your head. You detox from that stuff by stop watching it and then start studying how you're gonna bless people, not suplex them. Hopefully I got that right. So notice here, and it says, and some fell in stony place where there had not much earth, and forthwith they spring up because they had no deepness of earth. So, something could come up, but they fall apart. That's what you see when they do these evangelistic meetings. These are like, I don't know. I don't know. They're just bad. They do this evangelistic meeting, and then people join the church, and within a year later they drop out. There's no deepness of earth. That's not proper sowing. People need to be mentored and get beside, and like how we follow God, people need to be mentored in the church. And when the sun was up, he has place, but the place is overused. They were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell in among thorns. That's why Christ said, don't sow among thorns. And the thorns sprung up and choked them. See, you have to be in a conducive environment for church growth. Church had gone through all this stuff. And what it is that people need friends. People need people to get beside them. People need people to rub off on them. As you say, if you have only evil people around you, so you're just sowing among thorns. They're gonna rub off on you, and you're gonna start thinking like them. And that's what you don't need. To me, especially a young person, they don't need any encouragement for sexualization. To me, unless they have some type of funny man business going on with them, you need to sometimes discourage that stuff and keep it at a level because the hormones are pumping anyhow. So you don't need all this crazy pornography and weirdness. People torturing each other and beating each other. Like a young man don't need that. I don't need all this kinkiness and stuff like that. It's just crazy. But anyhow, and some fell among thorns and sprung up and choked them. But others fell in good ground and brought forth fruit. Some 100, some 60, and some 30. Who had hear, let him hear. So you want to be able to sow in good ground. You want to partake of what is positive so you can get positive results. That's the only way to do life. And so if you want good results, you sow and you get good results. You want bad results, you sow, you get bad results. So I believe that what we're seeing in the news with this constant violent people constantly attacking each other, this constant thing make it look like so we're in a kind of a Mad Max movie or some type of video game, is because I think the people are living a video game. They live an unreal lifestyle because they're partaking of all this unrealness. If you keep partaking of that stuff, you just mess up your mind. You don't want to do that. So the Bible tells us in Luke chapter 11, verse 9 and 10, say, I say unto you, ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh, and he that seeketh findeth, and he that knocketh shall be opened. So everyone asks, receive. So you want to be able to be seeking the Lord while you can, especially early the better. You want to be able to partake of what is good so that you can reflect what you're partaking of. Because remember, the big principle is by beholding, we become change. So we partake of something and we become it. We start to assimilate to what we have learned and we become it. You want good result, you're so good. You're good. You're so good in your life and you get good. You study good and you become good. That's what I believe. And if you do that, I believe the Lord will bless you. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I pray that you may continue to guide us along. May us basically receive of thy word and live off thy word. May you be with us that we might not only study good so that we can be good, but also be a good example to others. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me in Revive Reform Radio here as we do our live talk program. Looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow where we should talk about wisdom for living. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.